Hello everybody, welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today we're going to fill in the last hole at deck number 161. Now a long time ago, I had a guy we were playing and I took it as a deck building challenge, and he said that I bet you cannot build a deck where all cards start with the same letter. And I said, actually, I think I can build 5. Now, Ixodor, Piana, because we're relegated to the first letters of the 5 basic lands. Now I say 5 because wasteland, or the actual basic land waste, there's not enough W colorless cards out there. So I did 5, and S, of course, was black. Now S was the easiest one to do because it's a very common letter. Now I chose Seizan here because I figured there was enough Underworld Dreams style decks out there that could totally use him, and I needed some card draw. As it turns out, this deck probably has more card draw than the last deck did, but eh. So we'll do it just like we do a normal deck. I thought about trying to do some kind of crazy V for Vendetta where he says every word that begins with V, every word starts with an S, but yeah. Anyway, let's go through our ramp, as it were. We have Seer's Lantern, Soul Grail, and Sisay's Ring. So, obviously, as stated, all cards start with the letter S, and I went from there. Now we've got creatures. The creatures is where there's a bunch of them, but that's where it gets a little weak. Sepulchre Primordial, I mean, he's really good, but he's 7 mana. Sky Shroud Vampire, flip up now. Scourge of Neltal. See, the weak thing about it is there are some tribal cards in here that it doesn't, in my opinion, have enough of the tribe. We got Skittles. Is a good, solid card by itself. We have Batman, Skeletal Vampire. Soul Collector. Of course, the Soul Collector, is really good. And we've got some removal here. Skymarsh Bloodletter. It's kind of a recent addition. As I got this deck out of the box here, I saw some of the cards were just terrible. And we actually had gotten some new S cards from the last couple sets. So, that was cool. Of course, Steel Hellkite. Good flyer, good removal. One of my favorite S cards. Shoot, just one of my favorite cards ever. Sorceress Queen. I love it. Now, we thought, or at least my little play group did, back when this was a current card, that it removed the abilities. That it just created a blank 0/2. Sutured Ghoul. Of course, one of the other great cards of years past that kind of pales under. Nowadays we get what, a 6/6 flying trample dragon that lets you surveil for that cost. Severed Legion. Like I said, some of these are Severed Legion. He's just a 2/2 fear guy. There's lots of room in the deck for better cards that come out that start with S. Stromgall Cabal, but we had to fill out a creature suite. Now, Scourge Familiar is a great card. So is Shriekmaw. And I don't know why this card is not played in more decks than it is. I haven't looked on EDH Rec to see exactly how many decks is in. Maybe some of my fellow EDH Rec folks will check it out. But he steals all +1/+1 counters. Now, we live in a time where that's more common than ever. Yeah, it doesn't kill all the planeswalkers or the charge counters or whatever, but still, he's really good. And even then, he comes in with 1. So, worst case scenario, he's a 3 mana 1/1, which is actually pretty bad. But Silent Assassin, decent removal after the creature's done what they wanted it to do. Of course, Spine Brasher. There is some zombies hanging out in the deck. I gotta say, this is probably the first time Skin Thinner's ever been in a deck of mine. Because of the zombie tribal stuff. You know, the Shepherd of Rot and the Soulless one. Now, the two souls, speaking of souls, Soul of New Phyrexia and Soul of Innistrad, Shambling Swarm, Skurstack High Priest, Sangromancer. Flyers are always welcome, y'all know that. That's why I jumped at the Sower of Discord. And our last creature's technically not a creature, but I've always considered it a creature because it's a 1-mana 2/2. That's what it is to me. 1-mana 2/2. Now, you got to have a zombie, but more times than not, that won't really matter. And even then, it's a Carnophage kind of thing. So we have Swiftfoot Boots for, artifacts and stuff. Our artifact line, Swiftfoot Boots, Spellbook. I just kind of wanted to use the old one. I don't know. And more importantly, Stratascythe. Stratascythe's amazing in a monocolor deck. I'm just saying. Let's look at some removal. Now, our removal is, our entire card pool for this deck is somewhat limited because of the restriction that I put on myself. But we started off with Scour because, there's no reason to not to. Smother, Soulburn, Swat, Sick and Tired. Something tells me that if they'd have made this today, it would have been like a split card. But I don't know. Snuff Out, Seal of Doom, Sudden Death. Yes, I am playing Sever the Bloodline because have you seen Guild of Ravnica? There's more token decks running around than ever. Scent of Nightshade, which is actually kind of not bad. It's not like we have any super secret tech in the deck that we're scared of our opponents knowing. I mean, we're running actual 0 board wipes. It's sure. I'll show black cards to kill that one creature. Sever Soul. Sudden Spoiling is about as close to a Wrath as we can get. Now, back in Legends gave us Siphon Soul. Of course, this is the Onslaught version, but Legends gave us Siphon Soul, and then they reprinted it in Onslaught along with Siphon Mind, which is, card draw. And then Eventide gave us Siphon Life. Now, Siphon Life, obviously, we knew wasn't going to be incredibly on par, so they gave it Retrace, which, is not nothing. Sangomancy, where X is your devotion to black. Holy jeez, this is a card draw spell. Of course, Sign in Blood and Staff of Nin. Now, the last category I have here is just kind of randomness. We got Sorin's Vengeance, because why not? That's a huge life swing. Late enough in the game, it's a player killer. Skeleton Shard. Get those Steel Hellkite back. Yeah, that's about it. Here again, another kind of weak card. Scroll of the Masters. Not bad, I guess, for, the limitations that we've got. And our last card is, of course, Sadistic Sacrament, which costs 10 mana. Now, I have always said this card costs 10 mana. This, in my mind, when I am deck building, this takes up a 10 mana slot because the difference in value that you get from 3 to 10 is insane. Now, for 15 cards, the first thing that a lot of people think is, well, I'll go for their lands. Well, I'm telling you, it's a trap. I did that once in Standard, and all I did, because I didn't have a way of, like, eliminating the lands he already had, they just drew gas for the rest of the game and tore me up. So, something to think about. Now, non-basic lands, of course, I've got a Scorched Ruin in the house because, you know, we don't have a whole lot of ramps. I figured I needed it. Spawning Pool. And last but certainly not least, these Stalking Stones. Now, this was Seizan. Every card began with the letter S. I mean, obviously, it is not one of the stronger decks at the table, but it is definitely a fun deck to play and a fun deck to watch somebody play. I've actually done both, and it adds a certain something to the table that people start thinking of what you could have in your hand. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I've got. Hole number 161 is filled now. Let me write that junt in. Seizan. So now we are back on track. And we're going to start again in the 350s, getting back where we were. I've still got these now 8 decks here, so we'll see what they bring. But right now, we're going to shuffle and cut.